Have you ever walked into a room and felt every head subtly turn, even if no one said a word? Have you ever noticed someone act strangely nervous around you, like they were trying to prove something or hide something, even though you hadn't asked a single question? This isn't ego. It's not arrogance. It's energy. And more specifically, your aura. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist, once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Now let's pause there, because what happens when your presence, the energy field around your body, emotions and mind, is so charged, so clear, or so intense, that it starts transforming others the moment they encounter it? Not everyone is ready for that. Not everyone wants to be seen, stirred, or shaken. Most people live behind masks. And when someone like you shows up with presence that can't be ignored, they don't always respond with admiration. Sometimes they get uncomfortable, they get defensive, or even envious. This isn't just philosophy, it's observable in everyday life. You walk into a workplace and suddenly the atmosphere tightens. You speak your truth calmly at a dinner table and people get defensive, even if you weren't attacking anyone. You meet someone new and within minutes they're either opening up deeply or avoiding you altogether. Why? Because your aura doesn't whisper. It resonates, and in a world full of noise, people who radiate quiet power are the loudest of all. This video is not for everyone. It's for those of you who've felt this energy within yourself, but never had the words or framework to understand why people react to you the way they do. It's also for those who are still growing into their own power and need a mirror to help them recognize their own light, even when the world tries to dim it. And Carl Jung, whose work on archetypes, shadow psychology, and the human psyche, offers profound insights into why your energetic presence can be so triggering to others. So if you've ever been told, "You're too intense," "You're intimidating," "You're different but I can't explain why," keep watching. Because what you're about to discover will not only help you understand yourself more clearly, but also help you navigate the world without shrinking to fit it. Let's now dive into the 13 signs that your aura is powerful enough to shift the room, and why some people find it disturbing. 1. You make people nervous without saying a word. Have you ever entered a room and suddenly felt the atmosphere shift? People glance at you, then look away. Some become overly chatty, almost anxious. Others grow quiet, as if they've just been caught doing something wrong, even though you've said nothing. This isn't coincidence. It's the psychological and energetic impact of a strong, unfiltered aura, a presence that unconsciously challenges the masks people wear. Carl Jung once said, "The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their stories." What does this mean in this context? When your presence is powerful, when your energy is centered and unapologetic, it exposes what others are still hiding from, even if they've never spoken a word about it. Your energy, your stillness, is like a mirror, one that reflects back the unspoken, the unhealed, and the unfinished business within those around you. They might not consciously understand it, but they feel it. And that feeling, that discomfort, it's often misread as intimidation. Not because you're trying to be intimidating, but because they can't hide from themselves around you. You join a group conversation, and someone who was confidently holding court suddenly starts stumbling over their words. Why? Because your presence disrupted their rhythm, not by challenge, but by contrast. You weren't trying to one-up them, but your quiet self-assurance revealed their performance for what it was. You meet someone new and within minutes they either overshare or go cold. Oversharing is often a nervous response to a perceived depth in someone else. Going cold is a defense mechanism. They feel seen and they're not ready for that. In professional settings, you're often perceived as intense or too serious, even when you're simply being present. That's because people mistake emotional gravity for hostility. They're used to superficial energy. Your presence feels like a truth serum. This is the silent weight of authenticity. It can't be faked. It can't be dimmed. When you operate from a place of inner alignment, people sense it, even if they don't understand it. Their nervousness isn't about you, it's about what you awaken in them, unprocessed trauma, insecurities, and the truth they haven't told themselves yet. You become a living, breathing confrontation with their shadow. And Carl Jung taught that the shadow, when ignored, doesn't just stay quiet, it acts out. It judges, gossips, withdraws, or even attacks. So if people seem uneasy around you without cause, don't shrink. Don't tone yourself down to make others comfortable in their denial. Remember, your aura isn't loud. Their silence is just hiding too much. Do you see through people instantly? There's something unsettling about being truly seen. Most people spend their lives carefully curating an image, dressing it up with confidence, small talk, humor, or charm. But when someone looks at them and sees straight through all of that, it shakes them to their core. That someone might be you. Carl Jung once wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But the reverse is also true. Everything that irritates others about you often reflects what they can't face in themselves. And if you're the kind of person who naturally sees through the surface, who spots patterns in behavior, who reads emotions beneath the words, then people will either feel incredibly safe around you, or they'll feel completely exposed. You don't need someone to confess their motives. You can sense insincerity even when it's wrapped in compliments. You feel the tension behind a fake smile. You know when someone is performing confidence but carrying fear. This intuitive clarity isn't just intelligence. It's psychological attunement, the ability to read subtle emotional cues, body language, tone shifts, and micro-expressions most people miss. You're like a lie detector, but one that doesn't beep. You just know. You're in a meeting and someone suggests a plan that sounds polished and professional. Others nod along, but something in you senses it's not what it seems. There's ego, hidden agenda, or even quiet desperation behind it. Later, you find out you were right. You're dating someone who says all the right things, but you feel an invisible wall. Their words don't match their energy. You point it out gently, and suddenly they become distant or defensive. Why? Because you noticed what they were trying to hide, even from themselves. People describe you as intense or too serious for asking deep questions. You're not interrogating them. You're just genuinely curious. But that curiosity, that piercing awareness, makes them confront things they've long buried. You don't look for people's flaws, but your mind is trained to recognize patterns. Jung believed we are drawn to what we need to heal in ourselves, and that includes the people we meet. So when you see through others, they may unconsciously feel like you're holding up a psychological mirror, and most people aren't ready to look. They might call you too much. They might avoid eye contact. They might laugh nervously and say, "Wow, you really read people." But deep down they know, you're not just observing them, you're understanding them. And that's rare, because most of the world is busy trying to be seen. Not many are prepared to be truly understood. 3. People either love you or can't stand you. There's no in-between. You've probably noticed this pattern. Some people are instantly drawn to you, fascinated, inspired, or deeply connected, while others withdraw, dismiss you, or even act passive-aggressive for no clear reason. There's rarely a neutral reaction to you. And here's the truth. That's not a flaw. That's a signal of powerful energy. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. When you walk through the world without trying to fit in. When you speak with clarity, carry yourself with presence, and refuse to dilute your truth just to be liked, you become polarizing." Why? Because people see in you what they want, or what they're afraid of. You become a mirror reflecting their highest potential, or their deepest insecurity. This is not about being difficult, it's about being real. You're not performing, you're just existing with intensity, awareness, and self-possession. And that energy doesn't leave people feeling meh. It shakes something loose inside them. Those who are ready for that, they'll respect you. Those who aren't, They'll reject you because your presence feels like pressure, even if you never say a word. You join a new workspace or group, and people are either unusually welcoming or weirdly standoffish. Some ask deep questions, want to know your story, and seem hungry for your perspective. Others act like you've disrupted their balance, like your calm confidence is a threat to their authority, or your honesty is inconvenient. You didn't even try to stand out, but your energy spoke before you did. In relationships, romantic or otherwise, you've likely had someone say, "You make me feel exposed," or "I can't explain why, but I just feel overwhelmed around you." That's not about being too much. That's about being someone who can't be ignored, someone whose authenticity burns through pretense. You were never meant to be lukewarm. And when your aura is clear, your self-respect intact, and your shadow work ongoing, you radiate something the average person doesn't know how to categorize. So they react, sometimes with awe, sometimes with resistance, but never with indifference. Because your presence calls out the truth people have buried for years. 4. You attract deep confessions, even from strangers. You're in line at a coffee shop, or riding in an Uber. Within minutes, someone you barely know starts opening up to you about their failed marriage, their childhood trauma, or the dreams they've never told anyone. You didn't ask, you didn't press, and yet here they are, handing you their truth like it's been burning inside them for years. This isn't random. It's a psychological signal. Your aura carries safety and depth, and those two qualities are magnets for buried stories. Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important." You don't just make people feel heard. You make them feel like it's finally safe to say the things that are aching to be spoken. You don't just hear, you hold. There's a quiet intensity in people who have faced their shadow, those who've explored their own wounds with honesty. And when others sense that in you, even unconsciously, they respond. Your presence says, "You don't have to pretend here." And for someone who's been wearing masks for years, that's a relief too big to keep bottled up. You meet someone at a casual event. Within minutes, they're telling you how they never felt loved as a child, or how they regret the career they chose. Afterward, they might even say, "I don't know why I just told you all that." But you know why? Because your emotional depth opened a door they didn't even know was locked. In a group setting, someone who's usually guarded suddenly becomes emotional around you. While others keep things surface level, they come to you during a break, eyes wide and voice low, saying things like, "I don't really talk about this much, but..." You're not a therapist, but your energy feels like therapy, because it holds non-judgment and clarity in equal measure. People don't pour out their pain to just anyone, but when your aura reflects the work you've done, the shadow you've faced, the healing you've embraced, the silence you've mastered, you become a quiet invitation for others to do the same. They may forget your name, but they won't forget how they felt in your presence, seen, safe, and somehow lighter. 5. You make others question their own identity. Have you ever noticed how some people become strangely defensive, quiet, or even confrontational around you, without you doing anything but just being yourself? It's not because you're arrogant. It's not because you're trying to one-up anyone. It's because your presence, your authenticity, your emotional depth, your refusal to play shallow games, forces people to confront who they really are. And not everyone is ready for that. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people haven't even started. They're walking around with borrowed values, second-hand beliefs, and personalities they've pieced together to fit in, not to be whole. When they meet someone like you, someone who's done the work, who's integrated their shadow, who owns both light and darkness without shame, it creates a kind of existential friction. You don't say anything directly, but your energy asks one quiet question. Is this really who you are? You carry a vibration of self-knowledge. You know what you believe. You know what you value. You're not easily shaken by opinions, gossip, or trends. And that solidity, emotional, psychological, even spiritual, highlights the shakiness in others. People may not realize it consciously, but around you, they begin to sense the cracks in their own identity. It can inspire them or intimidate them. You speak your truth in a group, calmly, clearly, without needing validation. Suddenly, someone reacts strongly, saying you're being too intense or too much. But what's really happening? Your clarity just exposed how much they've been hiding behind vague opinions and crowd-pleasing behavior. A friend or partner starts acting differently around you, like they're performing or keeping a distance. You didn't change, but your growth has become a silent mirror for everything they haven't worked on. Instead of rising with you, they retreat. It's not about being better than anyone. It's about being real in a world that rewards fakeness. And when you embody that, you naturally trigger people, not because you're wrong, but because your truth disrupts the illusion they've built their identity around. This is why your presence feels like a quiet revolution. You don't force people to change, but once they've been around you, they can never unfeel the discomfort of inauthenticity again. And that's power. Rare, disruptive, quiet, and real. 6. You see through people instantly, and it unnerves them. You meet someone new. Within moments, you already know what they're hiding behind their smile. Not because they said anything wrong, but because your intuition catches the micro-expressions, the body language, the hesitation behind their words. You feel what's real and what's rehearsed. This kind of perception doesn't come from being clever. It comes from having walked through your own emotional fire, from facing your shadow, your lies, your wounds. So when others try to cover theirs up, you spot it immediately. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But when someone hasn't done that inner work, and you show up already understanding their game, it makes them feel seen in ways they're not ready for. That's where the discomfort begins. Your aura says, 'I know what you're not saying.' You don't need people to spell it out. Their vibe already told you the truth. Their contradictions, their need to dominate a conversation, their fake modesty, or their obsessive need to impress. It all clicks together in your mind like a puzzle. And the unsettling part, you don't even have to call it out. Your eyes, your silence, your steady calm, it says enough. You're in a meeting or social setting. Someone's acting overly confident, but you can feel the insecurity bubbling underneath. They notice that you notice, and suddenly their tone changes, their energy shifts. Maybe they even get a little defensive. Why? Because your presence just pierced through the persona they carefully built to keep people out. A friend asks you for advice. You give it, gently, honestly. But instead of appreciation, they seem distant or cold afterward. That's because your insight touched a nerve they weren't ready to explore. You didn't attack them. You simply held up a mirror, one they've been avoiding for years. This ability is both a gift and a burden. You connect deeply with people who are self-aware, but you make others feel like they can't hide, and that's terrifying for anyone who depends on masks for survival. You're not trying to expose anyone, but your truth reveals theirs. And in a world obsessed with surface-level interaction, your depth feels like a spotlight in a dark room. Some will run, others will stay and awaken. But either way, your presence leaves a mark. 7. Your emotional intensity is too much for the superficial. You're not loud, you're not dramatic. But your energy feels like a storm just passed through the room, even when you're completely silent. Why? Because you carry emotional gravity. Your presence doesn't stay on the surface, it pulls people inward. And in a world where most people are skating on top of their feelings, your depth can feel like too much. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." This is why your emotional intensity either inspires deep connection, or causes people to withdraw, make jokes, or even try to bring you down. They're not reacting to you. They're reacting to the parts of themselves they can't access but sense within you. You don't do small talk, you go straight to soul talk. You ask the questions people avoid. You notice what's not being said. You sit comfortably in uncomfortable silences that would make others squirm. That's not being too much. That's called being real. But for someone who's used to living behind filters, your rawness can feel threatening. You're catching up with someone and they mention they're doing fine. But you pick up on the flat tone, the fake smile. So you gently ask, "Are you sure you're okay?" Suddenly they get defensive or brush you off. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your question broke through the surface and touched a nerve. At a group gathering, everyone's keeping things light, talking weather, trends, gossip. Then you bring up something real, a dream you're chasing, a loss you've processed, a truth you've been sitting with, and suddenly the room gets quiet. Someone changes the topic, because you brought depth to a place built on shallowness. You're not made for shallow waters. Your aura dives too deep, and it calls others to go deeper too. Not everyone is ready. Some will swim, some will sink, some will run for shore. But don't shrink your energy just to make others feel safe in their superficiality. Your emotional depth is not a flaw, it's a force. One that's meant to shake things up, not smooth things over. 8. You make people feel seen, and that terrifies them. Your energy doesn't just enter a room, it penetrates. You don't even have to speak. People feel like you see them. Not just their clothes or facial expressions, but their patterns, their fears, their hidden selves. And the moment someone feels like you see through their mask, they panic, because it feels like you've accepted what they can't even admit to themselves. It's not just intuition, it's energetic truth. You pick up on subtle cues. Tone changes, word choices, glances. You feel when someone's energy doesn't match their words. And when you respond to their truth, not their performance, it shakes them. You don't react the way most people do. You don't laugh at their sarcasm if it feels like pain in disguise. You don't comfort their fake smile. You question it with empathy. And that throws people off. Someone is bragging about a new achievement. Everyone else claps. But you sense emptiness behind it. You ask, "How are you really feeling about it?" They suddenly seem confused or even irritated. Why? Because they're not used to someone acknowledging what's beneath the celebration. And it scares them to realize you noticed. A friend is venting about a toxic relationship, but still defends the person causing them pain. You say nothing judgmental. You just give them that look, the one that says, "You already know what to do. Why are you hiding from it?" Suddenly they pull away, not because you hurt them, but because you saw the truth they've been trying to deny. You don't weaponize your insight. You don't shame or expose. But your ability to see the soul behind the behavior makes people feel naked, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. And while the right people will be drawn to that, many will run, not from you but from themselves. Your aura doesn't just light up the room. It brings clarity, like a flashlight in a dusty attic. And not everyone is ready for what's hiding in their shadows. But that's what makes your energy powerful and rare. 9. People mistake your self-respect for arrogance. You've worked hard to get where you are. You've had to face your fears, your wounds, and your limitations. You've peeled off the masks and stopped pretending just to be liked. So now, you walk with self-respect. You speak with clarity. You know what you will and won't tolerate. But here's the paradox. The more grounded you are in your worth, the more people, especially insecure ones, will see you as arrogant. Why? Because your self-respect reminds them of everything they're still unsure about within themselves. As Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So when someone says, "You think you're better than everyone," what they're really saying is, "I wish I felt that free in my own skin." You're not boasting. You just don't shrink. You don't put others down. You just don't put yourself beneath them either. That alone is enough to trigger people who rely on people-pleasing and self-doubt to navigate the world. You make decisions with conviction. You honor your boundaries without guilt. And in doing so, you send an unspoken message. I value myself. To someone who hasn't learned how to do that yet, it can feel like rejection, or worse, intimidation. You're in a group, and someone makes a passive-aggressive comment. most people would laugh it off. You calmly respond, "I don't accept that kind of energy. Please don't speak to me that way." You didn't yell. You didn't attack. But suddenly, you're the one called rude or too sensitive. What just happened? You held a standard, and they weren't ready for it. You walk away from relationships or environments that drain your spirit. Not with drama, just with clarity. And yet, people you barely interacted with whisper, "Who does he think he is?" That's projection in action. They can't do what you did, so they criticize it to protect their ego. You don't have to defend your confidence. You earned it. It's not ego, it's evidence of growth. But your light will expose the dimness in others' self-view. And when that happens, their discomfort speaks louder than your truth. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. What matters is that you stay rooted in who you've become, because real self-respect isn't loud, it's quiet power. 10. You feel drained after being around certain people. You walk into a room with high energy, ready to engage, connect, or just be yourself. But after a conversation or interaction with certain people, it's like you've just run a marathon. You're not physically tired. You're energetically drained, like something in you was siphoned away, leaving you feeling depleted. So why does this happen? Why does your aura take such a hit in the presence of certain individuals? Carl Jung once said, "The energy that we do not use in our own lives, we project onto others." When your energy is high and pure, it naturally attracts people who are in need of a spark. But those same people often can't keep up with your vibration and inadvertently pull from your energy, leaving you feeling drained. Some people don't just take your time, they take your life force. They feed off your positivity, your empathy, and your ability to stay calm in chaos. And after spending time with them, you can feel it. Your aura feels weaker, your body feels tired, and your mind feels cluttered. Why? Because you've been carrying their emotional weight without realizing it. It's not about being overly sensitive. It's about the energetic mismatch between your inner frequency and theirs. You've been around someone who's always complaining. Nothing ever seems to go right for them. At first, you listen with empathy. But by the end of the conversation, you feel heavy, like their frustration is now your own. You didn't do anything to cause this, but you can feel the emotional exchange happening, draining your energy, leaving you questioning, "Why do I feel so exhausted?" You're hanging out with someone who constantly seeks validation, attention, or reassurance. The conversation isn't reciprocal. It's all about them, and they never seem to give back. By the time you leave, you feel emotionally depleted, like you've been running a therapy session without even realizing it. Why? Because your aura gave and theirs took without balance. Your aura is a vibrational field that picks up on energies, both conscious and unconscious. When you're around people who lack emotional self-awareness or carry a lot of unresolved pain, you unknowingly absorb their energy as they unconsciously latch onto yours. This is why, after being with certain people, you can feel like you've just gone through a spiritual workout, and not in the good way. But it's not just them. You are also responsible for managing your energy, and understanding that not every interaction is an equal exchange is a crucial lesson for your own well-being. You're not here to fix others. You're here to protect your own energy, to be discerning about where you invest it, and to set clear boundaries that keep your aura intact. When you start to recognize the subtle dynamics of energetic exchanges, you'll naturally gravitate toward people whose energy aligns with yours, people who replenish you instead of depleting you. However, people react to you as if you're unapproachable, but it's just your aura. You walk into a room and suddenly the vibe changes. People fall silent, and some even become visibly uncomfortable. Others keep their distance, acting like they don't want to engage. And in your mind you're thinking, did I say something? Did I do something wrong? But the truth is, it's not about you. It's about the energy you radiate. Your aura sends out signals that others can't quite explain, and that can sometimes make people feel like you're unapproachable, even when you're doing nothing to make them feel that way. You've done the inner work. You've faced your shadows. You've embraced your authentic self. But for some, that authenticity feels like a wall they can't breach. It makes them nervous, unsure of how to interact with someone who has such a solid, grounded presence. When your aura is powerful, it creates a subtle but undeniable feeling of respect, or even intimidation, around you. People who aren't comfortable in their own skin or haven't done their own inner work will sense that, and it can make them hesitant to approach you. Why? Because they feel the energy of someone who knows who they are, and they subconsciously wonder if they're worthy of stepping into that space. You're not unapproachable. Your energy just demands respect, and some will shy away from it because they haven't yet found that respect within themselves. You walk into a room full of strangers at a party. You haven't even spoken yet, but suddenly you notice people exchanging glances and avoiding eye contact. Some of them are even whispering in the corner, and you can feel that they're talking about you. What's happening? It's not that they dislike you, it's that your aura radiates a certain authority that makes them uncomfortable. They can sense your grounded energy, and instead of leaning into it, they pull back because they're not sure how to relate to it. You walk into a work meeting and everyone becomes a little more reserved. The usual banter fades away, and people who usually chat with you seem to hold back. What did you do? You did nothing. Your presence simply shifts the dynamic in the room. Your confidence, your calm, and your ability to remain steady causes others to feel small in comparison, so they keep their distance. Why does this happen? It's simple. Your energy is a mirror for others' insecurities. When people are still trying to figure out who they are, or when they haven't faced their own inner work, they instinctively retreat from the certainty you carry. But here's the truth. You don't have to diminish your energy to make them feel comfortable. You don't have to shrink who you are just so others can feel good about themselves. Your aura, your presence, and your authenticity are powerful, and that will either draw the right people closer or make the others run for the hills. But the key is this. When people react to you as if you're unapproachable, it's often because they feel something in themselves isn't aligned with the energy you radiate. And that's not your problem to fix. 12. People feel uncomfortable because you won't play the game. You've probably noticed it. When you refuse to play the usual social games, people feel awkward around you. You don't engage in gossip, small talk, or superficial pleasantries. You don't fake your opinions just to fit in. You don't chase validation. And yet, when you step into a room, people notice, and they become uncomfortable. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. By standing firm in who you are, you create a space that's free from the games that most people are used to. You don't play the role of the person they expect you to be, so they become unsure of how to interact with you." Why do people get uncomfortable? When you stop pretending to be someone you're not, you challenge the status quo. Your refusal to conform, to say what others want to hear, makes some people feel exposed. It forces them to look at their own lack of authenticity, and they don't like it. You're the mirror they don't want to face, and that's why they retreat. Not because of anything you've done, but because you've made them aware of their own avoidance of truth. You're at a social gathering, and everyone starts gossiping about someone who's not present. You don't engage in the conversation. Instead, you shift the topic to something deeper, something more meaningful. Suddenly, the group feels awkward. They can't play the game with you, so they distance themselves. It's not that you're being rude. It's just that your refusal to conform forces them to face their own discomfort. Your unwillingness to play along with superficial social norms disrupts the energy of the room. But remember, that's not a weakness, it's your strength. 13. Your presence leaves people speechless. Ever notice how, when you walk into a room, some people suddenly can't seem to find the right words? They may pause mid-sentence or fumble with their thoughts when speaking to you. It's not because they don't like you, it's because your energy is so strong, it puts them in a position where they have to pause and reconsider what they're about to say. When you stand in your true power, you become a living example of authenticity, and it stirs something deep inside others. Your presence commands attention, and that can make some people uneasy because it forces them to confront their own lack of self-assurance. Why does this happen? Your confidence and clarity radiate in a way that makes others question their own. When you walk into a space, people feel your energy shift the dynamic, and it can be overwhelming, especially for those who haven't embraced their true selves. They want to connect with you but can't find the words because your presence makes them face the gap between where they are and where you've grown to. You enter a conversation with someone and suddenly they're stumbling over their words. They can't seem to find the right things to say. It's not you, it's your energy forcing them to face their own uncertainties. They're not used to someone with such undeniable presence. Your powerful aura causes people to stop, reflect, and sometimes even freeze. But remember, this is a reflection of how far you've come, and it's proof that your energy is something they've never encountered before. As we've explored, these 13 signs show just how powerful your aura can be and how it subtly affects the way others perceive and interact with you. It's not always easy to recognize, but understanding these signs can help you embrace your energy more confidently, protect it, and set healthier boundaries. Now it's time to take action. Start paying attention to how your presence impacts others and how you feel in different environments. Your energy is your greatest asset, and once you learn to harness it, you'll not only attract the right people into your life, but also step into your full power. If you found this video insightful, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share one sign from today's video that resonated with you the most. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful content on personal growth, energy, and understanding yourself on a deeper level. Remember, you're not just another person in the room. You are the energy that shifts it. Until next time, stay powerful,